we feel so fortunate to be here, and thank you, Jess, for bringing us in, and really, really enjoy being with you guys. So that's cool. So I'm going to go straight into it, and let me just put my timer there. So in this session, I want to talk about assertiveness, and I think I want to start with a few questions to begin with. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by people's demands when you could actually say no, but you didn't? Oh, reactions. Have you ever felt frustrated in a conversation because you needed to say something, but you didn't get to? And then you walk away feeling unheard, unproductive, unfulfilled, unfruitful, and yet you still had to do what you were told to do.
All of the above.
All of them. So I've got the right audience tonight, and I'll throw in one more. Have you ever seen someone being so resentful or regretful or passive aggressive, and later on you found out that they actually didn't get to do what they want to do? They don't say much, but then later on they got passive aggressive. You thought, well, what's wrong? Oh, you didn't get to say what you wanted to say. Oh, you didn't get to do what you wanted to do. So why didn't you say that? So we're going to address that. One time I was talking to one of my team leaders, a couple of years ago. I was serving in a ministry. One of the team leaders, when I texted him, sometimes he would reply to me, but sometimes he would not. And I would just say, hey, look, are you able to do this, next week? And he would ghost me. And then a week later, I thought, no, I need to catch up with him. So I caught up with him, right? I said, hey, look, can I be honest with you? I said, when I texted you, why don't you reply? Right? So it's just a little empowering question, but I was really gentle. And then he goes, oh, Stan, I actually feel really overwhelmed because I actually can't come. I said, well, I get that you can't come, but you could have just texted me and said, no, I can't. And why can't you even do that? He said, I feel overwhelmed because I feel like you might say something bad, or you might get angry, you might get disappointed. And I thought, can I ask you one more question? I said, well, I know that I'm your team leader. I understand that I'm in a place of influence and authority, and sometimes you feel a bit scared. I get that. But do you do that to your friends and family members too? And then he said, while you're on it, I actually do. I said, well, okay, great that you do. But I would like to know, how would they respond to you for your ghosting? And he said, well, to be honest, Stan, I had a lot of friends, they told me already. They say, you're so irresponsible. Why don't you just say something? You're all about your feelings. And I said, well, so what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about that? I said, all you have to do is just to be a little bit more assertive, okay? When you say something, when you say no, don't worry about what other people might think, because they're second guessing. You are assuming evil of that person who might be reacting negatively to your response or whatever that is. I invited him to work on the area a little bit more, just to learn to be a little bit more assertive. And I guess we all have something like that in our lives, right? So the thing is, without assertiveness skills, a person would actually feel powerless in expressing themselves, often feeling unheard, unseen, unnoticed, unimportant, or unable to keep their boundaries. And people like that would usually live a very resentful life. And you don't want to live like that, right? You know why? Because I was like that. I have to say that I had a little bit of that. I actually had a lot of that myself, where my dad was a really strong person, and my mom just doesn't usually say much, okay? She's so afraid of confrontation, and she doesn't like to speak up. But my dad was the opposite. So I guess like growing up in a home environment like that, I would, I tend to be like my mom. I tend to be a bit like holding back. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to rock the boat, because my mom used to tell me, don't talk to dad. Don't bring this up, okay? Just keep it quiet. And I guess like growing up with that sort of environment actually affected me in my adulthood or in my ministry life. And I remember one time I was pulled into a ministry. I enjoyed that ministry, but then within that ministry, things were going so fast to the point that the ministry leader said, oh, you know what? You have to do this on Tuesday. Oh, okay, I'll do it. You know what? After this event, there's another event, so let's do it. Oh, let's go and do it. After the event or next year, we have to plan for next year. So we have 2 days meeting. Let's go and plan. Oh, let's go and do it. And then like after 3-4 years, I thought, I'm so tired of this. You know what? I didn't learn to say no. I didn't learn to say, look, I understand that, but it didn't work for me, and I can only do this much. But you see, like, because I didn't learn to say that, I became resentful. I became regretful. I felt like I got sucked into a ministry, and I had to serve and serve and serve. So we all have to watch out for that. Why? Because I didn't have the assertiveness skills that I needed to regain the control of my life. So in a relationship, if someone might feel taken for granted or being exploited by the other person, if you come across people like that, they lack assertiveness skills, right? And is there a possibility that when people don't understand you, now this is a question that we can ask ourselves as a reflection, is there a possibility that when people don't understand you, or when you feel people who don't understand you, is it because you enable it by not being assertive? So what have you contributed to it? And you don't want to walk away from the conversation. You don't want to walk away from the relationship thinking that, well, I was never understood. I was not all that important. Why? Because you have not spoken up. Okay. Assertiveness helps you to regain the control of your life. If you are not being assertive, say, for example, to set up your boundaries, then how do people know that that is your boundary? Say like, I enjoy talking, I enjoy interacting with people, I enjoy ministry, but you know what, after dinner or maybe after 9, I would like to have a little bit of peace and quiet time. I would like to read a book. I would like to browse online, and I would like to catch a movie, right? But if I didn't say that, then all these people calling me and say, oh, well, Stan, I need help. Hey, can you take this call? Hey, can you do this? And okay, I'll do it. And then eventually I thought, my night's gone. So where's my time? And then the next day, I'll get grumpy. Oh, why? Because like you should have rested. You should have spoken up. You should have put your boundary in to say, well, that night is my night. Okay? Or maybe I'll go out to catch a cup of coffee with Helen. That's my time. Okay, if I don't get to have that time, then the next day I get grumpy. I'm not happy. Why? Because I didn't guard my time by being so assertive and say, no, I don't want to take the call. I don't want to answer the email. I don't want to catch the deadline. It's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. Assertiveness is not demanding immediate explanations. Like if you say to your boss, say, hey, boss, thank you for asking me to work for the next 2 weekends. But it doesn't work for me. I can only work for 1 weekend. Maybe next month I can work 1 more weekend. So assertiveness is not ignoring other people's need and space and time. Okay? We all need our space. We all need our time. We all have legitimate needs. I'm not saying that it's all about you and you don't worry about the other party's needs and desires and space, right? Assertiveness is not blame shifting or refusing to take responsibility. Assertiveness is not dominating the conversation or to refuse to listen. Okay, so assertiveness is standing your ground and expressing your true needs, wants, and desires respectfully. Assertiveness is not dominating the conversation. Okay, so assertiveness is protecting personal boundaries in a gentle and a non-inflammatory way. Assertiveness is speaking the truth in love and keep the other person's dignity and keep your own dignity. So there are 3 aspects to mind when it comes to assertiveness. Number 1 is that conflict is inevitable or natural. Now, I believe one of the family mottos that my family has, one is life should be easy. In the early years of my life, I always wanted to find some easy way out. Life should not have a lot of challenges. Life shouldn't be that difficult, right? And so I had that there, but later on I realized that conflict is part of life, And I felt like I just couldn't accept this ideology that hard times is part of life, right? Difficulty is part of life. Life can be unfair, but God is not. So I had to change my belief system that I have to accept the fact that conflict is inevitable if you want to grow. Like sometimes we will come into some sort of clashes over people's wishes, needs, wants, or values. And we have to accept the reality that the people that you work with, they have their own needs, wants, desires, wishes. And you also have your own needs, wants, desires, values, and wishes. And when you put the two people together, there will always be differences. There will always be clashes. There will always be conflict. Why? Because the two people are very different. Once we can accept the fact that, okay, well, there are differences and we just have to learn to handle it. And we have to recognize that how we handle it will determine the success of your life. You don't have to think, oh, well, I just want to prefer that person. I just want to serve that person. Never mind about what I want, what I need, what I have to say, go for them. But you know what? It's just like God placed something in you and then you don't want to say it. So what do you call that? It's just like you're not actually expressing your true, honest of heart. That's just, something's wrong with that. And you have to realize that in life, you will come across some people with stronger personalities. Maybe you're like me, you know, I'm a little bit more gentle at times. And I would rather not to speak. I would rather stay at the back. But some people are not like that. They're just like, when you give them the mic, whoa, I'm going to speak. All right. Or some people were born with some sort of strong personalities, right? Have you seen some of those guys? They are around us, right? Some people are just pushy. And some people could actually overstep your boundaries, particularly if you don't communicate what your boundaries are. So they are there, and they can be disrespectful, right? But it's up to you to manage it. Number two, asserting yourself. Like I said before, my mom tended to avoid conflict. Okay, she's really conflict avoidant. While my dad was really strong, often angry. This dynamic led my mom to adopt a victim mentality. Growing up in this environment, I didn't learn how to speak honestly and assertively or gently, wisely. What if what I share is wrong? What if other people react to it? No. You can't second guess yourself. You can't second guess other people. Your job is to be able to share honestly, calmly, wisely, and gently with your thoughts and your feelings and your ideas. As simple as that. Don't think about what other people might think. Don't think about what you might think. Don't think about whether your ideas might be wrong. You already put up walls in your heart to set yourself up for mental health issues. So number three is no more second guessing. Some people are really good at second guessing what other people might say. Therefore, you don't say what you need to say. And then you think, well, because I know what they will say, so I will say this. Come on. Their response is not your responsibility. And your job is just to be honest. You know, when you are being honest, when you are able to share your thoughts so openly in a safe environment, you are actually allowing the truth to come out. You're just being true to yourself. That is something that we all have to learn, right? David said here, chronic second guesses are chronically dishonest. Imagine if you live a life of dishonesty all your life. That's not going to be good for your conscience. When a family member constantly invades your privacy, okay, you could actually say, hey, look, I need this space. Please knock before you enter, right? And when I'm having a shower, please don't shout through the door. I don't care even if the courier is knocking on the door asking for my signature. I will not hear you, right? Because that's my space. How embarrassing is that? It's just like, knock on the door, the courier is here. Come out here and sign the parcel. Otherwise, you have to go back to the depot and to pick it up. I don't care. I will go to the depot and pick it up, but that's my shower time. Does that make sense? You just have to be so firm and assertive about little things like that. Otherwise, it just spoils your whole day. Okay, if a friend consistently disregards your preferences, you can actually say, look, I appreciate your suggestions, but I'll prefer to do it that way. If your boss assigned you some unreasonable tasks, you can say, hey, look, thanks, boss, for giving me the job, but I can't complete this by this deadline. Can we renegotiate the deadline? Instead of thinking, oh, he's the boss. Oh, if I don't please him, I'll get fired. Okay, what about this? Voicing needs clearly in a relationship. You feel neglected by your partner because they spend all their free time with friends or other things. And you can say, hey, look, I miss spending quality time with you. I think I want to plan something for us to go and do something. You can totally propose that. Don't ever think that because they're too busy, then you have no rights and you have no space to propose what you really want and what you really need. Asking for help without feeling guilty. Hey, honey, I feel so overwhelmed with work. Can you help me with this a little bit? I would appreciate that. And a lot of people don't do that. Okay? They just felt like, oh, well, that's my task, that's my job. And when you do it and you do the dishes, you go, you're passive aggressive. Why don't you just share it and just say, hey, look, it's just too much for me and I can only do this part. Can you do that part for me? Okay, so I think my talk's done. Thank you, Jess. Any reflections and questions and responses?
With assertiveness, how do you be assertive and not let the emotional anger come in?
You speak as quickly, as clearly, and as kindly as possible. So you don't wait until you are to the point where you're saving dishes around. You address things quickly. You make sure you know what it is that you're trying to say. You're saying it clearly, and you're coming in as kindly as possible.